Hello, Sharon. Welcome to Whistle Talks, episode 12. It's amazing to have you here with us.
Oh, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
So, before we get started talking about today's topic, could you maybe introduce yourself and speak a little bit about what your company does, how you got into the industry of sales?
Yes, I'm an entrepreneur. I founded a business called Matchboard 12 years ago tomorrow. So it's been quite a journey.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I ran,
Congratulations.
thank you. Yes, so previous to Matchboard, I ran sales functions for big outsourcing companies in 5 different countries around the world. But I came back to Australia, which is my home turf, and in my 40s thought it's now or never to start something. And I really felt, having sales and marketing skills honed through my career, that was probably the most important skill you could have for a startup business. So I came up with the idea of a business matchmaking platform, almost like a B2B version of a dating site. And one of the areas we match the market for is sales outsourcing providers. We match a whole range of service providers, actually. But for the purposes of today, I'm happy to focus on the sales side, which has been super successful thanks to partnerships with companies like Whistle.
Wow, that's amazing. I love the fact that you said it's like a dating app. It's the easiest way for people to kind of understand the concept of what your company does. So obviously, Matchboard reaches out to many clients very, very often with sales inquiries. And I think you would know some of the tips and tricks on how to reach out effectively. What are some of the errors that people make when they're reaching out? And that obviously gets us onto today's topic of how to manage new sales inquiries for optimal conversion. So could you maybe speak us through a little bit about that process?
I learned a lot since I started Matchboard, and one of the things I've learned is the power of speed. Uh, and by that, I mean reacting quickly to sales opportunities and leads that may come through your website or a phone call, whatever medium it is. Um, and in my experience, Matchboard has over 5,000 clients, so we've got a lot of data to analyze. Um, when we look at the companies who we refer that jump on the sales opportunities and sales inquiries within an hour, the conversion rate is just wildly better than a supplier that waits till the next day. And when I started looking into this, it was such an obvious finding, I guess, that people need to be followed up quickly when they've got interest. Otherwise, they'll just continue searching on Google for someone else. I stumbled across some research by Harvard Business Review, and I've actually got it in front of me, and it said that they analyzed 1.25 million sales leads in the US. And their research said that if you contact leads within 1 hour, you're 7 times more likely to qualify them than even waiting an additional hour. And you are 60 times more likely to qualify the lead compared to waiting 24 hours. So getting onto leads quickly is an absolute must. I think it's the most powerful free competitive weapon that salespeople have is just be quick. It doesn't cost you anything really, but
Exactly.
in my case, I tend to just drop what I'm doing when a sales lead comes in the door. Salesforce, you would know Mark Benioff, their CEO and founder, who's quite a famous entrepreneur. He said that speed is the new currency of business. And I strongly believe in this era that that's true. So I'm always begging the suppliers that we match with sales opportunities, just get onto it. And also, sometimes sales inquiries have a little, description about how urgent the requirement is. And often people just don't look at that. So I would say pay attention to what the client's saying. If they have an urgent requirement, even more so jump on it in minutes, not hours. So that would be my first tip.
It's so fascinating. It's something so simple, but it's so effective, and it just shows you that our attention spans are so short, and people need to be sort of gripped at that first moment, and that makes such a difference. How do you usually approach people that are not in your time zone, or people that are not in your country? I know you're in Australia, so I'm sure you've got many clients in the US, all over the world. Could you maybe speak about how you approach
Yes.
that?
Yeah. Well, absolutely. That's one thing to check, is what time zone the person is who the sales inquiry is from. And usually you can do that through a quick LinkedIn search, because having just mentioned, you've got to hop on inquiries as soon as you get them. If you wake up in the morning and there's an inquiry from someone New York, then absolutely you don't want to hop on that one if they've left their mobile phone number, because it'll be the middle of the night calling from Sydney. So you do absolutely have to be aware of the time zone. And if you really want to be successful, you have to be available and communicate in the client's time zone when it's convenient for them, which is not always great, but that's just how it works. And I even find that for emails, um, when you're following up a sales lead in another country, it is more effective and more likely to be read if it is sent during that person's business hours, not yours. So it's a small thing, but sometimes super enthusiastic salespeople just get carried away and forget to check where that person is.
A simple reminder. Um, could we speak about call to action? How to have an effective call to action in a personalized email or whatever? How that can make a difference, or maybe some tips on call to actions.
Yes, absolutely. Well, probably my top tip with sales email is to have a strong, what I call action word, which, going back to high school English grammar, is basically a verb. So have a strong call to action with a verb. So it could be something like, book a Zoom with us at a time convenient to you, and have your Calendly link, or request pricing here, with a little survey to fill out, or take a read of our new ebook, listen to our new podcast, feel free to share this with your team. These are all powerful verbs. It really encourages people to take an action, rather than just consume information that may or may not interest them and they don't know what to do with. So if you put that in front of them, I think you have a much better chance of engaging further. Pretty obvious one. So I think with emails, some sort of rookie salespeople, if they don't get an immediate bite, they'll just leave it. And they won't even, if someone says we're not quite in the market for this at the moment, they'll just like put it in the trash folder, or just delete it. But I think most experienced salespeople know that in this day and age, it's all about building relationships and nurturing leads. Little quote, which is, keep a little fire burning, however small, however hidden. So until someone unsubscribes or says they don't want to hear from you for a year or something like that, keep that little fire burning. And there are so many ways you can do that. You can hop out of an email mode and say, hey, I'm going to be in your neck of the woods next week. Would you like to grab a coffee? Something very non-threatening and very sort of casual, so people don't feel overwhelmed that they're in a sales process. You might invite a group of people to an outing. You might offer them a subscription to a newsletter. There are so many ways you can keep that fire burning and continue the interaction with leads that have come through, that may not be ready to buy. Let's face it, you probably need somewhere between 5 and 15 interactions with a lead before you know whether they're ready to buy. So don't give up too early would be my advice. You did mention personalization, and I absolutely believe this is one of the keys to sales success, is to personalize your email outreach. And there are some very simple ways of doing that. So you can get to know the person that you're responding to on LinkedIn again. LinkedIn is just an absolute goldmine of sales intel. And if, for example, that person works for a company in the financial services industry, well, bang, you can reference in that introductory email financial services experience with other clients in the sector. Or you might find that person went to the same university as you did, or speaks another foreign language that you do as well, or has some mutual connections or hobbies. There's just so much information out there on people. There's literally no excuse why you just have to send a generic template email anymore. The little time it takes to invest in that little bit of research for some golden nuggets to show that that person is an individual and they're not getting a template response, that makes such a difference to people and makes them feel valued. So I would suggest always personalizing your interactions.
People just get so frustrated and think that all sales queries are like an automated thing, and everybody's getting the same sort of message in the same template. And I think you are so right about the personalization. Speaking about personalization, and nowadays, so many things are automated and there's so many AI tools. Do you have experience with any automation tools that assist your queries?
I don't use marketing automation software, horses for courses, but if you're dealing with very high-end B2B customers in relatively small volumes, and it is manageable with a human, I think a human is always ideal, but who isn't using ChatGPT these days as almost an assistant to spark some ideas, do some research for you to put into the email? But at the end of the day, you don't want it sounding like a bot. People want human to human, and they feel devalued if it is obvious, and sometimes it is obvious, if something has been written by a bot, a generative AI. So I would just be very careful there. I think the space is evolving very quickly.
Yes.
In fact, Matchboard is launching a beta version of our Gen AI bot on our website to help people find information quickly. People that then hopefully will make a sales inquiry. And that's actually another tip. If you are putting a Gen AI on your website that queries all the blogs and white papers you might have, as the bot answers the question, you can program it with one of those calls to action. So you can program the bot that answers the customer's query, and at the end says, if you would like pricing on this, click here. If you would like a salesperson to contact you, click here. And so calls to action, here they pop up again. They should be sprinkled throughout every interaction.
That's absolutely fascinating. I love how you really sort of emphasize the power of humanization and personalization. And that's exactly why I asked you, because you've got so much experience in this industry, and so many people are just moving towards using AI and automation tools to make their life easier. But I think you've hit the nail on the head, absolutely. And that's why it's such an interesting question to ask nowadays, because everybody's using that. And like you said, don't rely on it fully, but you can obviously use it a little bit to your advantage. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on the podcast, and we look forward to chatting in the future.
Thank you. It was an absolute pleasure there, Kayla. Thanks again.